Hey guys, Turtle here again. So I was about to load up the side-by-side last night on the trailer, get it ready for the Hatfield McCoy trip today, and the back end felt a little squirrely. So went to check it out. You can see how bad that is. So big delay in going to Hatfield trails. I woke up this morning and went to the local Honda dealer. Luckily they had bearings in stock, because as it turns out both back bearings are bad. Front ones were fine, but the back ones are bad. So I went to the local Honda dealer, picked up a couple back bearings. Go ahead and get those on, then we'll get on the road. Running a few hours behind due to this. But that's plus for you guys, because now I'll be sending another video your way showing the bearing disassembly and reinstall. For the record guys, this is a 2018, that is a 2018 model Honda Pioneer 700 two-seater, and the lug nuts there are 19mm. Alright guys, so step one, make sure you set the e-brake, leave it in gear, chock the front tires, whatever you gotta do. Take off the lug nuts. I just wanted to show you guys this firsthand. You can see how much play there is. That is not acceptable at all. So next from here, we're going to take out the cotter pin that goes through the castle nut there. Once you fold that tab back, fold that tab up, pull it out the bottom using a pair of needle nose pliers. You might need to use a screwdriver or something to help pry that up, get it up enough to get a hold of it with the head of your pliers. But then we're going to take that cotter pin out. We're going to put a 30mm axle nut socket on there, back that off, pull this hub assembly off. And then we're going to go ahead and pull out the top and bottom bolts from the arm here. We'll take this in the shop, put it in the press, and remove the wheel bearing from the inside of it. We'll set the new bearing in place, press it all together, reinstall everything, and repeat the process on the other side of the machine. So let's get to it. This is hard to do with one hand while also trying to hold the camera. But you can get the gist of it, getting the screwdriver underneath there to get it up. You gotta get that tab up just enough to get a hold of it with the pliers. Now that's up, you can see I can go ahead and squeeze that together. Make sure those are lined up. And I'm going to try to wiggle them down a little bit, so that I can get the head out the bottom here. You see there's the head. Now I can actually get a hold of it and try to pull that out. I'm going to put you on pause for a minute while I fight with this thing. Okay guys, so I've got the cotter pin out. It's a good idea to replace these whenever you pull them out, just because they get old, they get rusted, they put up a bigger fight than they need to most of the time. And they're really cheap. Like, you can buy a kit of them, like a big kit of them at Harbor Freight for like little to nothing. So it wouldn't hurt nothing to replace it while it's out. If you absolutely don't have any more, don't have access to any more, don't just leave it out. If you have any remnants left like this one, I would put it back in, just have something in there until I get some new ones. Alright, from this point, I'm going to go ahead and put the 30mm on here on the castle nut and back this off. Set that aside. There's our hub assembly. And you can see bearing's wiggling around in there. It's not supposed to be like that. So now I'm going to go ahead and take the top bolt off and the bottom bolt so I can get that off. That'll slide right off, letting the axle drop in the rear, and then I'll be able to take this in the shop and get that bearing out of there. Okay, so I got a wrench on that side. Just so you know, these are 14mm both sides. Okay guys, so I got them broke loose, and from this point I'm going to go ahead and take those out. Let that drop. Take that nut off. And pull this one out. Now we can drop that whole piece out. Yeah, you see how loose that bearing is. That's not a good thing. So let's go ahead and get that out of there. One thing I forgot to mention, guys, is there's also a snap ring here that goes around the bearing on the outside here. The snap ring does need to come off before we can put this in the press and push that bearing out. I'm going to spray it a little bit first with some lubricant. Get it good and saturated. Let that sit in there a couple minutes. So the good news is this ring here actually has these little tiny holes right there. Those little ears. So I'm able to use my snap ring pliers to compress it. It's being a little bit of a fight. You can see all that corrosion, junk and stuff build up in there. Being a little bit of a fight, but she's coming loose. Get this side loose, stick a screwdriver under there, work your way around, it'll pop out. If it don't, just do it with your snap ring pliers. Okay, finally got the snap ring out. So now we're going to go ahead and set this in the vise, the press. We're going to set this in the press and press the bearing out. Alright guys, so it takes a little finagling to get everything lined up. But once you do, it should be a nice smooth transition and everything should drop right off the bottom. And there it goes. Now while it's out of the machine and got the bearing out, we're going to inspect it, make sure everything's good and smooth inside. No damage to the shoulder inside there. We'll clean her up a little bit and press the new bearing in. These are genuine Honda bearings. There's your part number. And you can see that just looks a whole lot better than what's left of the old one. Alright guys, so I'm pressing in the new bearing. One thing I forgot to mention, when you go to do this, you can see that this is offset, so you're going to want to level out the shorter side so that your bearing goes in straight. Otherwise you get your bearing sideways and create a whole new mess. And press until she's seated, and now we can pull her out of there. Alright guys, so the new bearing is pressed in, seated very good. Now I'm going to go ahead and use snap ring pliers and reapply the snap ring. Then we can go ahead and get this arm back on the machine. Alright, so the snap ring is in there. I'm just going to give a couple taps, make sure that it's seated. You want to make sure that those are seated all the way in that shoulder there so they don't pop out on you. Okay guys, so there she is. I got the arm back on. Got the bolts in, top and bottom here. And now I'm going to go ahead and clean this up really good, along with the hub assembly here. Clean that up really good and put some new grease in there. So hopefully we don't have this problem anytime soon again. I'm just using brake cleaner from AutoZone. Works really good. No, they did not sponsor me in any way. It just happens to be they're closest to my house with the cheapest product I can get my hands on. Okay, well, she's on there. Let's go ahead and button everything up, tighten everything down, and get this wheel on. Then we'll just repeat the process on the other side. It's as simple as that, folks. There she is, guys. She's all done. Got the castle nut on, got the cotter pin in there, got the nuts all on and tight. You can see there was no play this time. That's just the jack shaking back there at you here. But that's good and snug the way it's supposed to be. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this wheel on and repeat the process on the other side. Thanks for watching, guys.